Today we are going to talk about the first question type, the first item on speaking and writing section, which is read aloud. So let's see what you're supposed to do on this question type. You will see a passage and then you are supposed to read this passage aloud word by word as naturally and as clearly as possible. So actually it's a very simple task. You'll see something on the screen, you'll get some time to prepare for it, and then in the time that is allotted to you, which is generally 30 to 40 seconds, you are supposed to read the text aloud as clearly and naturally as possible. This is how the screen will look like. You can see, you can go through the direction, look at the text below. In 40 seconds, you must read this text aloud as naturally and clearly as possible. You have 40 seconds to read aloud. So the time that is there on this task, the time for preparation and the time for actually attempting this task will vary between 30 to 40 seconds. Sometimes it could be 30, sometimes it could be 35, or sometimes it could be 40. The reason being the length of the content. Sometimes if the length is short, then you might be given only 30 seconds to prepare and then 30 seconds to attempt. If the length is large, then definitely you will be given 40 seconds to prepare and then 40 seconds to attempt this task. Let's see how the score allocation works, how on which parameters is this task scored. There are basically three parameters: content, pronunciation and fluency. The content part has a variable scoring and I would say it's between 3 to 5 points. The reason being the length of the content. Also, it must be noted that this is an integrated task which involves both the reading and speaking, and hence the score that you get will be divided between these two sections. And as we have seen in some of our previous videos, by now you are aware that most of the tasks on PTE Academic have integrated scoring, because it tests a combination of skills, and read aloud is one of those tasks where you are supposed to read and where you are supposed to speak. So naturally the score will go to both these skills. So let's see how the time management works on read aloud. As discussed, you will get 30 to 40 seconds to prepare at your end. You have to watch out for the microphone status. As soon as the microphone status changes from beginning in, let's say, XYZ seconds to recording, you will hear a sound and immediately you are supposed to start speaking. Make sure that you do not pause for 3 seconds or more, because if you do so, then the voice recorder will automatically close and then whatever you speak after that will not be recorded at all. See, once the microphone opens, you will have 30 to 40 seconds to provide your response. Depending on whatever time that is allocated to you for attempting this task, you may have 30 or 40 seconds to attempt this task. But generally I have seen that people getting a full score on speaking, they complete this question type in maybe 15 to 25 seconds depending upon the length of the content. So you should try and practice. Whenever you practice at home, ensure that always you are completing read aloud tasks between 15 and 25 seconds only. Once you have provided the response, let's say based on the strategy that I am suggesting you, you completed the task in 25 seconds. And then it's your call whether to wait for 3 seconds for the microphone to naturally close or straight away click on the next button. It's totally your call. It does not make any difference to how the scoring works. So if you want to save some time, once you complete, just let a second or two pass and click on the next button and move to the next question. So the next most important thing is the strategy. How you are supposed to attempt this task in order to maximize your score across both the skills where your scoring gets divided, that is reading and speaking. So let's see what strategies one should deploy in order to get the maximum score here. First thing, one should be aware that each replacement, omission or insertion of a word is going to count as one error. So you lose points on content over here. Make sure that you do not replace any word in the passage with some of your own words. make sure you do not forget to speak a word altogether or insert some words of your own in between. The second important thing one should remember is not to hesitate. Sometimes it will so happen that you cannot pronounce a word properly, you hesitate in pronouncing it, there are false starts while trying to pronounce that word, but make sure that these errors do not happen. However you know about that word, try to pronounce it. Don't try to repeat that word twice or thrice and try to correct your pronunciation, because those will be counted as multiple errors. Once you've made an error, make sure that you keep reading. You should not go back and correct the same error. The third thing is about the pause in your speech. Whenever there's a comma or whenever there's a full stop, the idea is that you should pause for a while. If there's a comma, there should be a smaller pause. If there's a full stop, there should be a longer pause. This is very important if you want to score good points on the fluency parameter, because fluency, as I also mentioned earlier, it's not about how fast you speak, it's about whether there's a gap between the two words or not. So all these things are important. The next point is that you need to ensure that you intonate. It shouldn't look like that, some robot is speaking. Your speech shouldn't look mechanical in nature. So when you're reading, try to become the character himself or herself. Let's say if the passage talks about some climate change issue, then your tone should be concerned. Your tone should be such that it shows concern about that issue, because it's about some issue that they are talking about. If what they are talking about is a pleasant event, then your tone should be joyful. All these things are also important. Make sure that your voice goes up and down. You stress on the important words. Let's say some words like always, never, never ever. All these words must be stressed upon. So when you speak them, there should be a clear difference in the intonation for the machine to understand, because PT after all is assessed by artificially intelligent scoring engine. So unless you intonate, it will not get the clue that you are doing well on fluency, because these fluctuations in voice are very important. So the gist of everything that I have to say today on the strategy front is that whatever you speak, ensure that it comes out naturally. It shouldn't look like that some robot is speaking, or maybe it's coming out mechanically. Try to understand the essence of the passage in the time that you get for prepare, and try to bring out those emotions. Quite often I tell my students to use hand gestures as well, because sometimes if you are looking to intonate, if you are looking to stress on a particular word, as you can see, you can use some hand gestures as well. That will help you a lot, because using hand gestures is not prohibited on PT. You can very well use your hands, your facial gestures, in order to try and emphasize upon the words that are of real importance, and try to fluctuate the tone of your voice as well. So quite often I do this exercise with my students. I carry printouts of scripts of popular dialogues from some of the popular movies. I give it to them, I show them the video, and I tell them to rehearse and to speak the dialogue exactly in the same intonation, with the same intensity and emotion with which the particular actor delivers the dialogue in that movie. Friends, you can also try doing this exercise at home. You could watch some Hollywood movies. Let's say if you're a big fan of Marvel, if you're a big fan of Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, we can have big debates about who is the best character in Marvel. But you could choose your favorite character, watch a particular movie, try to emulate his dialogue. So you can write down what he's speaking, or you can have the subtitles on, and you could try and repeat those dialogues with the same intensity. Because a lot of students are stuck on the speaking section with this particular issue, that when they speak, their speech comes out to be mechanical, it looks robotic. And in order to add some intonation to it, this is a very good exercise that you can do at home as well. So before we end this video, let me show you how I put my strategies into practice by taking a couple of questions here. So the first question is right there on your screen. You can see the question on your screen. There's a timer over here. Take your time, attempt this question, and make sure that when you attempt it, you record your response in your mobile phone as well. After you record it, just ensure that you go through the model answer that I am providing here, and please note the points where I am emphasizing on a particular word, taking pauses, intonating, fluctuating my voice. You'll be able to see all these in the model response. So take your time, attempt it, and then resume this video. So are you ready with your recordings? Let us compare your recording with the model response here. Opera refers to a dramatic art form originating in Europe in which the emotional content is conveyed to the audience as much through music, both vocal and instrumental, as it is through the lyrics. By contrast, in musical theatre, an actor's dramatic performance is primary and the music plays a lesser role. So friends, you'd be able to see over here that I am emphasizing on particular words. Wherever there's a comma, I am taking a pause. Wherever there's a full stop, I am taking a longer pause. And whenever there's no comma or full stop, you see that I am not breaking my speech, I am not breaking my breath. So it is also important that before you attempt this task, you should breathe properly so that your voice does not break down in between for the want of some air, some oxygen into your lungs. So this is also important. I've seen people making this mistake. Whenever there's no comma, you have to go fluently. There shouldn't be any gap between the two words. Pause only when you see a comma or a full stop. Okay, so let's see another question. Again, the rules are going to be the same. You will see the question on your screen with a timer on it. Try understanding this question first, try understanding the emotions behind the passage, and then in the time that is allotted to you, try and convey in the best possible manner with the correct intonation, with the correct pronunciation, and with the correct content. Make sure that you do not miss out on any word, or make sure that if you're mispronouncing any word, you don't go back and correct it. So let's have a look at it. So here's the model response to the second read aloud task. Dolphins are regarded as the friendliest creatures in the sea, and stories of them helping drowning sailors have been common since Roman times. The more we learn about dolphins, the more we realize that their society is more complex than people previously imagined. Now here you'd be able to see that some of these sentences are long and there was no comma in between. Still, I did not break my breath in between and I went on in just one breath. This is because before I started speaking, I had taken enough air into my lungs to sustain this entire task. So towards the end, let me tell you one more strategy that I have found quite useful. A lot of students have been using this and you can use too. The strategy is simple. You need to optimize the preparation time that is given to you. Just as in the previous question, you are given 30 seconds to prepare. You need to optimize your 30 seconds. So ideally, in the first 10 to 15 seconds, you should try and read the passage in your mind. Try and understand the meaning of the passage, because friends, if you don't understand the meaning of the passage, it might be difficult to bring in the same kind of emotion. So you'll have to understand it a bit, and then in the remaining 10 to 15 seconds, try attempting the task in low voice, so that you get an idea of where you are making a mistake. So it's sort of a rehearsal. I've seen that a lot of students, they try and rehearse the passage twice or thrice before the recorder opens and the actual recording begins. You can do the same thing, but at least make sure that you have one rehearsal before you start recording the actual answer. That will settle your nerves and it will identify where you are making mistakes. If there's some word that you are mispronouncing, if there's something or the other issue with the speech, or maybe if just in this passage, as we saw, there were not many commas and full stop and you were supposed to go on continuously. So all these small things you'll be able to identify in your rehearsals and you'll be able to rectify them. So friends, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's interaction. Thank you.